Come on, Maxine.
All right, let me just start by let me start by say good afternoon, last good afternoon, Maxine.
Yell
Bless,
up to the
bless.
audience.
Yeah, good afternoon, the listeners. Today we're going to do something rather different. We're going to look at some events happening as we go into the holiday, namely the Vibes Cartel concert, the Buju Banton and Beres concert, Sting, Rebel Salute. We're going to look at these events and evaluate them
Bring in
because
herb.
and
Bring in herb.
Herb is around here. Yeah. Sorry about that. Brother Herb, welcome.
Greetings, everybody. Good to
Yell
Yeah.
see.
up, herb. Yell up.
So what we're gonna do today is look at these music events because right now in Jamaica everybody is putting down the dollar and the what have you to attend these events. This morning I was talking with someone and the question came up, how can the Jamaican people afford these events in such a short space of time? I couldn't answer that question. But today we have with us Maxine, Sister Maxine Stowe, who is a music executive. And I'm going to put the question to her. You know, how can the Jamaican people afford so many events in such a short space of time? You know, as you know, Maxine is from the music industry. She has background in music production, and I take it some events. So, Sister Maxine,
Yes.
I want to turn it over to you, to you lead the discussion as to these events. How long can they survive? How much the Jamaican people can afford, given the economy that they live in? Because Jamaica right now is under tight rein, fiscal rein. My friend said to me, the Jamaican youths have money. They don't mind forking out money because after that they hustle. A lot of them are doing scamming and what have you. I'm not sure about that. But Maxine, can you take us into a discussion around this particular concern, these events and the economies of the Jamaican people?
Well, what I would note is that the seasons that have these large events are usually the seasons that the Jamaican diaspora and probably also the tourism market are in Jamaica. So like around Independence time, Christmas time, spring break, in the March April space, um, there's a focus on not just the Jamaican people at home, but for the Jamaicans abroad that are traveling in at that time, and tourists um, that come into Jamaica. Uh, we had, I guess, in the last couple of years, starting with Buju Banton's release from prison, there was this huge concert that occurred, filling up National Stadium. And it's not even so much filling up National Stadium, but the ticket prices were astronomical according to local, standards, even the standards for like a reggae sunsplash. I think that is one of the features that we're looking at, even say with the Vibes Cartel concert that really came on the calendar again as a date that was decided by his team to hold his coming home from jail concert, you know. And so it actually clashed with Sting, which is a yearly concert, Christmas Eve concert that has been going on now. Next year is going to be the 40th anniversary of the Sting concert. Has been happening since 1985. And so the idea of figuring out how we're going to afford it is now coming on the table, because I guess before everybody was just preparing for Sting. Now the concert season got divided now, or this particular Christmas Eve to New Year's weekend, with this Vibes Cartel concert, which I don't know if it's going to be an annual event or just a one-off, you know, for him. Interestingly for me, is also the promoter in Joe Bogdanovich, because Joe Bogdanovich had, I think, purchased Sting or had invested in Sting for a couple of years. Well, and then I guess the venture with Leng and him didn't work out. So there's another angle to, you know, the choice for Vibes Cartel to use that date in the circumference of Sting. I don't know what factor that is, but knowledge of the fact that Bogdanovich was behind Sting for a couple of years and now isn't, and is doing the Vibes Cartel show, is of note. Buju Banton and Beres Hammond, they are doing a concert the 4th, which is like 2 or 3 days later. A major concert that is as well. I don't think the ticket prices, I didn't really look into it, how high those ticket prices are. It's not commanding like what the Vibes Cartel figures are. And then you have the last concert of the season, which I would call Tony Rebel's concert, Rebel Salute, as a lot of people who this is the last of their holiday period, and also a lot of foreigners come in for Vibes Cartel, not Vibes Cartel, Rebel Salute, because that is a time when a lot of the European promoters in this period also, they come in to book the artists for the upcoming summer in Europe, in the European festival tour circuit and market. So this year is very interesting to see what is going to happen. Sting is under a cloud because, you know, a lot of the artists that would be, well, not a lot of the artists, the crowd that would be going to Sting, they don't have, I wouldn't think they have enough money to go to Sting and to go to the Vibes Cartel show. And I think the newness of Vibes Cartel release and the hype around him will command, you know, some attention. So the brands are really the big spenders in terms of, you know, putting up the money for a lot of these events. So to the extent that promoters are exposed to potential losses, they're still upheld by the brand investment and sponsorships, who a lot of time the value for the brand is not simply the ticket, you know, ticket sales at the event. It is the coverage and promotion that they get leading up to the event. You know, there's months of promotion where their brands get exposed. So the business of profit and loss is also would be something to analyze, like, because the profit and the loss is not simply on ticket sales. And now also they have what you call it, online viewers, where people are purchasing to view these concerts that are international, not even in Jamaica. We haven't really seen the statistics yet from these concerts, how many international fans or consumers actually watch what is happening. So yeah, it's something for me to be observant. And one of the big things, I just was observing the Peter Tosh 80th anniversary show down in Westmoreland. And what strikes me is the lack of venues to really have these concerts without a lot of infrastructure that you have to bring in, sound, light, rainfall. That was a big plague for the recent Peter Tosh concert. I think Hurricane Beres was impacting on them. But for all these huge concerts, the venue development in Jamaica hasn't matched it. And Jamaica as a venue is very attractive to overseas people. I know that you have a couple shows in Jamaica that are really promoted abroad massively, like Dream Weekend in the Grill. You have another one called Mocha Fest, where the African American, especially fans, are marketed, heavily to come in for those shows. So, like I said, this season is interesting because of the Vybz Kartel concert and the impact that it's going to have on Sting. And if it is in fact going to be is he going to launch it as his yearly event? Yeah. So other than questions coming from yourself or the audience, that's how I'd open up.
Well, let me start.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to Mr. Leng, and listening to him, it sounds like he is on a war path. Do you think that Vybz Kartel having his concert so near will cause some disruption, violence, or what have you, between him and Leng? Because Leng is no longer police, Him can't lock him up, but him can send him friends.
Well, like I said, I don't think it's an issue of Vybz Kartel. I think it's an issue of Joe Bogdanovich, who is the promoter of the concert, and his prior relationship with Leng. That is of, that is a real factor. It's not the factor that is maybe, presented in the public.
So why would you want to go so near to Leng event? Is he sending us a message? Because in fact, I thought he was a major sponsor of Sting a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Is there a fallout between them?
There was a fallout. That's what I'm saying. He's no longer backing Sting. I think Sting last year, the year before, or the year before, was Leng by himself doing it. So I was curious as to, it is a good date in terms of the hype that Vybz Kartel wanted to project about his release, like, bringing in the new year with vibes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it works with his branding. And I think Joe Bogdanovich is not just that concert, but he might, I think it's reported that the whole Caribbean market has been bought out. It's a partnership with him and Vybz Kartel. So the Jamaica show is one of other Caribbean shows, because I guess his travel situation is not yet worked out. I hear that he has offers now going into America, but his visa situation just coming out of, prison. But at the same time, I don't know if the charges, the way that they were dropped, if it does, if it doesn't, if they're going to clear up his visa situation. Because I guess he wouldn't have a charge, if I understand what happened in the courts, that, the case was, I don't really fully understand as I'm talking to you. I know he's free, but I don't know fully, if he has something on his record or everything was expunged or what, I don't know.
Last, you have a question? Herb, any question for Maxine?
For me, my concern is mainly with the general public, and like the whether or not they could afford one or more of the shows if they want to see it. By what Maxine is saying is that the foundation for the shows seem to be in good standing based on the kind of sponsorships and so forth that's forthcoming. It would seem like the fact that it's a big holiday season in Jamaica, and lots of foreigners coming in. It's a festive season. The sponsors seem to be anxious to attach themselves to some of these shows. So at least from that perspective, there is some kind of support for the actual shows taking place and kind of freeing up the actual sponsors, the actual people putting on the shows. But as to whether the spectators, how much of it they can take in, that is the big question for me.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see the economic impact, especially on the inner city communities, if people are mortgaging their, their earnings, or their, you have some people that are selling their bed to buy the concert. And then I think, it's back to school, after the holidays, you know what I mean? Like, it would be interesting to weigh who bears the burden the most, for these costs. I know they said they had a Black Friday sale in order to make the Gaza nation, who are, I guess maybe not can afford those type of ticket prices, to get it at a reduced price on quote unquote Black Friday. But it would be, I think the biggest concern was the Sting is like I said, next year is the 40th year of it. It's a staple event, and to have, something come, I know that for example, artists can't promote shows back to back. Like if I sign a contract with an artist, there's like a 2-3 month window that if they're well paid, they can't really do an event, close to the promotion of this event, of a competitive event. I'm not sure in this case. I don't think any of the artists on Sting will be appearing on Vibe Show. You know what I mean? Like, I think Vibe Show is still very much, as to how I've seen it promoted, is him. I think it's Popcorn and Lady, what's it? Spice, and just Gaza Nation. And then apparently there are a couple international artists that want to come in. They said Drake and or Cardi B, is supposed to maybe come in. So Sting still has the whole battalion of dancehall stars to, populate its show. But again, it's a consumer, not having within a week, um,
I know,
events.
I know to Maxine that one of the big costs of putting on these shows, especially now, is the whole aspect of security. I mean, the last event that took place at the National Stadium, the issue of people coming out, some losing their cars being broken into, security has become a major part of the economics of putting on these events and making them affordable. The last thing I heard was that some of these shows was having issues tying down security, especially coming out of the National Stadium situation. So
yeah, that is added. That is an added cost. Certainly going forward, especially for the stadium, because I think several communities surround the stadium. You know what I mean? That would make it kind of subject to that type of crime. However, like you said, they just have to set up they have to pay extra for those services. And Bogdanovich seems to have a deep pocket and an ability to absorb losses or costs in terms of being the top person that does these events. I think he's bought into Reggae Sumfest already, and doing a lot of major investments in the Jamaica music product. I don't know where he makes his money back in terms of profit. I haven't seen a big profit, like, he's really getting his returns. But he may be getting it elsewhere. Like I said, a lot of these projects are loss leaders for other business ventures, and our sponsors, etc. It's just that at the end of the day, when we hear what the consumer is going through, especially out of the inner city, where these Vibes Cartel is their star, yes, people have them, love them for their artistry, etc. But for our people, it's their heroes. So it does create a tension, if they don't get to come in, if they don't get to participate, and what are the lengths that they will go through or the sacrifices in order to attend this type of event.
Herb, you have any question for no, go hold on, Herb. Last you finish?
It would be interesting if we could get information like, the like you raised, Maxine, about the participation of the virtual platforms, to see how well that aspect of the thing has been supporting the entertainment projects in Jamaica. Because I think it was the last thing, it was widely broadcasted across a number of platforms in Britain and in the US. But we have not been able to hear to what extent, was the viewership and how it added to the viability of that that project in that year, because that would give us a better perspective as to how the economics
Yes.
of these projects going on in the holiday season. We could have a better perspective as to their likely profitability.
Mm-hmm.
Herb,
Also, I think just one more thing. Vibes Cartel is also interesting because the American business people who run the venues and the concerts here in America, especially the Black American market, as we saw recently with Buju Banton being promoted in arenas, an arena tour, which is not usual for the dancehall and reggae artists. I seem to pick up that the promoters and the business people in America are very interested in Vibes Cartel resonance in the US market and would be looking business wise, to see if they can match this arena tour, if he gets his visa thing sorted. So a lot of people are, jockeying for which is good. I like the idea. I'm a dancehall business person in terms of thinking that it's a huge product for us, marketed properly, and that we can benefit as a country based on how we can own the dancehall different from how we're losing the reggae. Meaning we are being competed all over the world, with reggae shows now is more international artists than Jamaican artists on these festivals and shows all over the world. So I'm interested, despite the issues in Jamaica, as to this vibe with Vibes Cartel business wise and the international interests that I see, coming for the dancehall, genre, despite.
Herb, you have a question, comment?
Yes.
Before that, can you move to your left a little so I can get a better view of your face? Yeah.
You see.
To your left. To your left. To your left.
Yeah, I gotta get this camera right.
Yeah.
Maxine, good day to you and then our esteemed panel here. Listen, I came out a few days ago out of Jamaica, and I'm looking at the change in the weather patterns down there. I have never seen so much rain fall. I'm trying to figure out, the first time I went was the early part of October. Second time I went back is the early part of November. Each time about 10 days. And you would think that a country whose concerts and other outdoor events are impacted severely by weather, that they would have built some type of construction that has a cover. Doesn't necessarily have to have the sides blocked in, because we know how dangerous that can get. But just have a cover over it that can cover maybe, 20,000 people or something like that, right? Of course, that means somebody would have to expend those funds. Whether it's the Ministry of Entertainment and Sport, which I believe is Bab's ministry, or whether the private sector has to come together and build such a venue that they can hold outdoor concerts. You may need one in Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. You may need three of them, right? But nevertheless, to avoid ruination of planned events, That's what I believe is needed. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, definitely. Because it's not even just, it would open up the market in Jamaica for international events to be held there, because a lot of people would hold their non-Jamaican events with Jamaica as the backdrop for having such an event. But the risk, um, the weather risk, which I think is increasing, I mentioned earlier of the Peter Tosh concert, that they specifically wanted to develop the Peter Tosh brand in Bluefields, where he was born in Westmoreland. Similar like how Bob Marley birthplace and resting place in 9 Miles is built up as a tourism, platform, but there's no venues. And then, I heard it was a nightmare, cars getting stuck in the mud, in the sand, it was a major loss factor for the Tosh estate. So yes, I don't, it's the same attitude that they have to the music product, you know. They just won't do any infrastructural investment in Jamaica, and not just because of, like I said, our own product, but the fact that international music platforms and or events, would use these venues to to keep their things, and then the whole entertainment platform would get more structured in terms of, because remember, you only have, which is interesting about Vibes Cartel, because on any given day you only have X amount of people that can fly into the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and fly out. So the coordination, especially for international persons to come in to an event, to really plan for it, it needs forethought. You know what I mean? You might need extra planes because you know that you're having this type of event and X amount of people coming in. You're going to need extra capacity in hotels if, you have an event with 50,000 people that are coming into Kingston, and it's going to need the rooms and all of these type of stuff. So it, for the type of rich product that we have and the interest that's there, I think the infrastructure is rather undeveloped and unfocused.
When you think about it, Jamaica's superhighway systems is coming together nicely, right? Except for the bad roads that they built around St. Thomas and Portland, where it just gets washed away. And we have talked about that in the past. But when you have the ability of people to travel anywhere in Jamaica within an hour, or within 90 minutes, I should say, to be sure, then you can have a concert anywhere and pull people in from one end of the island to the next. But the problem that they had with the soft earth, Jamaica's had so much rain in the last 2 months. The earth is extremely soft because the water table is rising under the hard ground, making it soft and slippery. So they're going to be fighting that battle at the end of the year when Vibes Cartel concert comes on, right? And we know now that the storms don't stop necessarily in November. The big storm that messed up New York and New Jersey occurred mid-December. And so they have to really look at global warming and the effects and make plans for that. They're going to have to spend money with equally private sector and the ministry, Babs's ministry, to ensure that people are safe and that in fact they won't lose their cars or because let me tell you, when them cars are stuck, they're truly stuck.
Mhm.
And we have had people washed away, mother and daughter and others washed away in their cars. And that's not a good thing, especially when you're going to have these concerts till the wee hours of the morning and people going to be trying to get home in pitch darkness. So, I mean, that's safety first if you can promote that. And hope that it gets through to
Yeah.
them. Now I know Vibes Cartel concert is the 31st of December. When is the one with Sting?
The 26th of December. It's
So
usually Boxing
Boxing
Day.
Day.
okay, so that means then he has to promote as well to pull the biggest crowd and hope
Who?
that the policeman, the retired policeman,
Leng.
yeah. Lang has to do some good promotion because keep in mind, because Vibe just got out of jail, there's a lot of people saving up to see him and to hear him perform. And it's important to them that they make the first concert, just like they did with Buju. When he got out, they want to make the first concert. So, it remains to be seen
I
if
actually had suggested before I realized that Bogdanovich, was the recent promoter of Sting. I was saying that it should be a dancehall week, starting with Sting and ending with Vibes Cartel, meaning it would have been a week of, like how Reggae Sumfest is a week of
yeah,
events, that it would be coordinated as such.
yeah.
But then I
Yes,
realized that, oh shit, no. I mean, so I say that.
yeah. The
There's a
tourist board,
rivalry with the promotions,
yeah, the tourist board should be the one promoting that.
Yeah, like
Right.
mhm.
And if you promote that during that holiday period, a lot of the younger crowd that strive on listening to Vibes and to the other
And
entertainers,
Sting. Hmm.
they'll show up.
Hmm.
They'll definitely show up, and they'll spend the money not on Christmas gifts but on the trip.
That too.
So
But
From where I sit, I have a much bigger, larger concern, and that has to do with the gentleman, what named Joe Bagovic.
Bogdanovich,
Yeah, is we we do not know how this man earn his income. All we know is that it suddenly turn up in Jamaica and it seemed like he control him just controlling everything when it come to the music.
music.
And what's your take on that, Maxine? What's really going on? Because I find it strange that this man from overseas just turn up in Jamaica and it's like him just have everybody at his fingertip. You know, what is really going on? And
Well,
how can the government allow someone like that to just come in, play a prominent role, and background check? They must have done background checks.
You have doubts about him.
well, remember, every product that we have in Jamaica is a joint venture with the international market, whether it's the drinks, the food, the recent ganja industry, because the Jamaican private sector, and even if the Jamaican people, like, we are really behind our products and services, we are not shareholders, or we don't have a vehicle to say, well, okay, we're going to make this a Jamaican owned industry. of scale, because we have a lot of small, what you call it, cottage industry. But if we were facilitated to be owners by virtue of how we could become shareholders of a large entity, you know, that is what is really giving the international market who knows about our product. You know, I would think that anything that Bogdanovich is investing in Jamaica is based on, if he's doing his business plan, there must be an international side to him making back his money, right? It in terms of the music and the culture being African based, African, you know, the African Jamaican. And yet over the years, you know, it's either a Chris Blackwell that emerged as a, you know, a Jamaican of, you know, European heritage, to have not a black entrepreneur like even the Marleys, you know, having been successful, it's still not them, it's still not their image as entrepreneurs that is behind the Marley success. And
That's
so it
right.
is kind of on a perception level, not as a disrespect to Bogdanovich, but as a Jamaican, for a Jamaican product, to not see a Jamaican in this power, you know, power position, and to know that our Jamaican investors then, you know, who have made a lot of money or have money in Jamaica, not investing in the music product in that level, you know, is part of the class issues within Jamaica. So Bogdanovich reflects that, not so much on himself, but on how Jamaica is structured in terms of, you know, how capital and how the people who have the creative power have no access to this capital. And then, you know, it's always an international partnership that or an international person that actually comes in. I was wondering why, for example, over the years, like a Black American investor didn't step in. You know, you have Jay-Z, you have, you know, all these guys who are certainly have the money or have the links, why they haven't come in and partnered with our product. You know, I don't know if they are pushed away or they're not invited, you know what I mean, from a Jam Pro level, you know. Not just like me as Maxine, no DJ Khaled and him coming and see me and, you know, we roll down by Judgment Yard, by Sizzler, or go up by Buju, you know what I mean? Not that type of informal invitation, but what is a formal invitation from a Jam Pro to investors abroad that, you know, would come in and invest?
Maxine, I want to go back to the tying in with what you're saying. It's very important what you just said, but tied to the issue that Herb raised about infrastructure development, one of the things that I notice, the tourist board is one of those entities who have been riding on the backs of the culture, right, in Jamaica. And we always see where the government, they give so much incentives to foreigners to come in, build hotels, to, you know, build those kind of structures. But when it comes to putting money in the entertainment and the culture from which they on whose backs they ride. It's not the same. It's not the same kind of incentives that is offered. For example, with the issue that Herb raised about the nature of our entertainment product being affected so much by weather. We see we're in most of these big promotions, entertainment promotions, outside of the national arena and the national stadium, they depend mainly on like community centers, sporting complexes, which don't have the kind of covers to protect from weather-related interventions, right? But there's nothing being done over the years to try and focus investments in those areas, whether to try and, garner the investments locally by giving incentives to local businesses, or partnering with local businesses or diaspora organizations who would be willing, to put their money towards the entertainment. There's not this kind of policy direction coming from the government. And that is where I see one of the big deficiencies in the economics of the entertainment industry.
Is it deficiency or corruption? Because I have friends who are involved in the industry, and one of the biggest complaints they have is about the trying to get around Babsy Grange. Everything have to run through her. Everything when it comes to culture in Jamaica, it have to run through her, and people just don't understand why. You understand? So it's not that you don't have the opportunity to invest, but it's the process and the people you have to interface with to get to that stage.
The problem is with that, Mikey. If everything has to go through any one or two people, it's not the problem. If the whole structure is broad-minded enough to cover wide areas of interest from people, we don't have a problem with that. But when the thing,
we have a problem. We have a problem, lad.
when the thing shuts out a major cross section of people and don't give them avenues, if the thing got through Babsy, and Babsy was able to say, okay, this is your issue, directed to that particular agency or that particular department that deals with the thing. If it was like that, if there was some direction and distribution point where people's ideas and people's interests could be dealt with, you don't have a problem with who it got through, right?
Well, probably because you don't know who Babsy Grange is.
I know.
Babsy is not just a minister. Babsy is a businesswoman who is involved in the industry itself. And that in of itself create problems for some people. Maxine, you want to say something. Go ahead, Maxine.
Well, it's interesting.
Careful now, you know.
No, it's okay. Me and Babsy is cool like that. We were both at Columbia. She was with specialists at Epic with Shaba. And I was at Columbia with Supercat.
Yeah.
And Columbia and Epic are both owned by Sony.
Yes.
So we might be competitive with each other, but the company was one.
500 Madison Avenue.
550.
550 Madison Avenue, yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting, as you said, Babsy, because I would say, well, then who in the opposition, in terms of government, would be is interested enough in the product to have, balanced her, or when, the PNP is in power, who is the culture passion person in this area. And it stems to me from the Siaga and his interest in culture as a major part of his politics, or how he saw the politics of Jamaica developing. And they seem to manage or focus the Jamaica Labour Party in terms of Siaga and Babsy. Siaga was a member of a company, a music company, probably still had interest in the music company as they came into power. Babsy, Siaga, and Chris Blackwell were very instrumental in bringing in lawyers, to structure the music industry in their favor, right? And I could tell you, I don't see a similar, other than how Michael Manley used or engaged the culture in the 70s. I don't see a similar focus on culture and entertainment development in the PNP. I can't tell you, oh, this person, is heavily interested. I know now the PNP has Deborah Hickling, who, Freddie Hickling's daughter, and who has been in the culture and creative industry. She's now representing that for the PNP, and I see her being more vocal and more focused. But I would say that the dominance that Babsy has, from a business perspective, started at the very beginning of the Labour Party structure. And like I said, over the years, I haven't seen the that interest or that focus other than in the Manley era.
Why? What could be the reason behind that?
I don't know.
The PNP doesn't develop this sort of persona who will speak on behalf of the culture. Because the lady Deborah, with all respect to her and all due respect to Deborah, I don't think she's up to the task. Nobody knows her. She's not active, so grassroots people can know her and say yes.
Well, she's not active in the music. She was active more in the film,
yes,
and in the academic theoretical developmental policy, right?
Almost people know her. Almost people know her for her.
No, she's known yet, and maybe she has to get somebody like me.
I prefer that.
Most definitely. But Maxine, one of the finish your point before I ask a question.
No, I'm just saying, I've been around Babsy and the music thing for years, right? And, working with Chris Blackwell, I know how, even from a family perspective, she's associated with the island machine. You understand? But similarly, I have yet to meet a PNP governmental personality that is focused on the culture. I think maybe the only person that was theoretically dealing with it was Arnold Bertram at a time, but that was more on a like an academic, level. But from the grassroots and from the music industry, and I haven't. I mean, other than Mr. who was it? PJ is always like, oh, he used to be the manager for the
Satellites.
Scatterlights, but nothing substantial. And then Omar Davis, you know, I knew him a lot being in Trenchtown. He had a good relationship with my uncle Clement Dodd, and he was a Peter Tosh fan.
Yeah.
But then he's a Ministry of Finance. He was in the culture person. I don't even know who is culture. Who has been culture over the years, really? For the
Bob's
PNP.
Grange.
PNP, for the PNP, for the PNP.
Who? I don't even remember who was it.
It's been
I know
real.
Aluna Samba, because they had put it under tourism at one time, like it's tourism and entertainment and culture. And then culture was with the education ministry. You know what I mean? There isn't a focus, and that has been a disadvantage, I think, in terms of the governmental policy development, you know, for the industry. That has definitely been an issue.
The question I wanted to ask Maxine is this. We have been speaking about the development and investments in the music and in culture generally from people who are generally either outside of the music industry or the cultural industry or outside of Jamaica. But shouldn't we be also focusing on those people who are part of the industry, who have made it inside the industry? People like the Marleys, you know, and other people who have been successful in the Jamaican music industry. What is their role? Shouldn't we be putting more pressure, calling on these people to say, you know, it's not just for the tourism industry whenever they feel like to invest in the industry, the music industry,
The
but
Marlies.
some of you guys, right, should step up to the plate, you know, help,
Yes.
not just invest, but help to organize. My big disappointment is in the Marlies, because you see the Marlies selling this herb brand with this American company and that kind of brand with that European company. But when it comes to focus on helping to lift up the Jamaican entertainment industry, they have been, apart from a little foundation here and a foundation there doing whatever, they have been largely absent.
Well, the Marlies don't, other than they're paid for their services and get their benefits. Infrastructurally, they don't really own the Marley business machine, right? Yes, I think they could do a better job of directing that machine to give back. And I've been in those type of scenarios where I'm questioning, having worked the international market, seeing the success even of Rasta artists, even, you know, I'm in the Rasta community. And, you know, when I was exposed now to the foundation of the Rastafari community and saw how, you know, there's no infrastructure there, no, you know, there was even a clash with the Marlies at the Scott Pass Nyabingi Tabernacle, that was a seat of the Nyabingi order, that created a situation where they literally closed down the space.
The Marlies.
Yes, meaning the conflict arose to such level wherein I said to them, not in that context, but over the years as I've worked within the whole thing, that listen, you cannot be paternalistic in this manner. You have to set up infrastructure. You have to set up. I've been lobbying for a trust fund. You understand that all of these Rastafari reggae artists that are using the gospel and the symbols and the whole thing of the Rastafari faith ought to be tithing to the community through a vehicle, not through their, somebody run up on them and say,
beg you this.
I died this or beg you this or whatever. It needs something more structural, because when people ask the question, so why aren't these people doing this and why aren't these people doing that? There's no mechanism, there's no policy, there's no vehicle to receive. So what has been happening over the years is people are complaining, not recognizing that the biggest complaint, which may be where the policy of the government, etc., is really lacking or purposely lacking, is in the infrastructure and the policy that would be necessary for this give back to occur, right?
Maxine, Maxine, with all due respect, I think Jamaican reggae music are some musicians, artists, are some of the most selfish individuals that I've met. And I say it because look at Waterhouse. You see behind me, you see that image? You see Lloyd Brevitt, you see King Tubbies, you see others. All of these individuals are from Waterhouse. Is there anything in Waterhouse to that show the contribution of Waterhouse? And nothing like that. We have been trying for some time now to get a studio up and running. Speaking to the same infrastructure stuff. And I'm telling you,
you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it.
Let me tell you why.
They're into the hype and they want a big entourage behind them and all of that stuff.
No, but that's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You need policy, right? You don't need the person to be thinking that they should do. There's no relationship. Like say you go into a church and your feeling with the church is that you would give every Sunday your tithe, or tithe your benefit. The individuals and the communities that we're speaking of, they don't have that relationship with the communities, because,
for example, King Jammys. What about him? He has a strong relationship with the community. What has he done? Nothing. He just focused on building his museum, according to him. But what has he done for the wider community?
I mean, that's why I'm coming to something, because I live that world, right?
Okay.
And I, as a person, feel passionate that this thing should be occurring. And when I live the world of the artist, I live the world of the business, and I'm a politically minded person, right? Okay. And I see where I can't ask these people to do. It has to be a policy. You understand what I'm saying? You don't get to come into Waterhouse and be like the attach yourself to it in your promotion of self without having to give back, like Trenchtown. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it should be policy, not asking, oh, maybe you should do this or maybe you should do that, right? It's the same thing with the Rastafari community. But Rasta is going to give. I'm telling you, I've lived it.
But here my thing, Maxine.
No, I just want to get to a point.
Yeah.
Everybody that is asked, like I'm asking you, and both of us are slaves to a system, right? So you're not dealing with the system that both of us are engaged in. We are dealing with each other. This is how I feel about it. A slave talking to another slave, like I don't have the money, you singing and you having the money, but you think you're important because you're on stage and people saying Ray, Ray to you. But you're in fact a slave to a system, right? And so I'm saying to I found out now within myself, said, no, sir, I'm a slave looking for better conditions out of the system. You think you are important You understand? When you are in fact also a slave to the system. Yes, you're making some money, but the people who are making the majority of the money is still not you. You understand what I'm saying? You're working for that system. The system that needs to give back to the communities is not your 10% or your little earnings. You understand? You are supposed to lobby the system that you're giving your cultural, your creative rights to for a percentage. Oftentimes, the majority you might get is 20%. There's something that is making 80%. That based on what you say with your 20%, that 80% has to give back. You understand? So, which is why I'm saying, asking the artist to give when he himself is fighting to get his much, and he doesn't, you know, these artists, they don't earn much for long. You understand? They go up there, they make a little thing, and then
I agree with you to a point, Maxine, but hear my disagreement with you now. You see, in terms of it, there has to be some structure. Me and you totally agree on that. There has to be some structure
and
and some policy. But where that policy come from? Is that policy gonna come from government, or is gonna come from just like how within the music industry, at some point in time they had formed like a federation of musicians or an organization of Rastafari? Is it should the participants look to those policies first coming from government, or from them building them own organizations and parties and formulating policies that can guide people in the industry in which they are?
I guess my viewpoint comes from the fact that the Jamaican music industry exists in the diaspora. It don't even really exist in Jamaica. So at the granular level, at the lowest level of the Jamaican music industry, our biggest Jamaican companies exist in America and or England. Right? The Jamaican, not international people, the Jamaican music companies. So we are just creating the music in Jamaica. You understand? And most time when we create the music down at mixing lab or wherever we're doing it, we have no contract. We just bridging myself out and exchanging. You understand? Jumping on rhythm and whatever. The first time you ever see a contract is when you fly out, land in England or land in New York, and then you're forced now to contract. Whoever happens to go with the music is the first time a contract is going to appear in relation to your rights and in relation to your earning. So when I say a slave to a slave, you understand? And you're asking for behavior in a space where nothing is contracted, nothing is known. A man just looking for a hit, a man just looking to jump on a rhythm to get successful, to get a show, to get a whatever. There's no linkage. There's no, connection. It's just like, oh man, I made it out of this dongle. You know what I mean? So for me, the policy would have to get back to where the money is being made in New York, in London, the Jamaican music companies that are, engaged with these product, and the international music companies that eventually take it to another level. These are the people who naturally give back because they are investing back into the, they want more product. You understand? So you need to appreciate it, the whole system, so that, like I said, I'm not talking about the artists who, the way they make music in Jamaica or how them get to wherever them get. You know what I'm saying? They have no loyalty to the community.
No loyalty.
There's no loyalty there. They're just like, give thanks. I broke through. I was a gunman, or sometimes I'm a part-time gunman, and I sing some gun lyrics. Then I find say I reach foreign, and you understand? Then I start make some money, and then maybe I can relax. You understand?
But,
And
but
Herb, Herb, yeah, Herb, your take. What's your take, Herb?
I'm looking at the potential failures of, say, Jampro, which is supposed to connect investors with opportunities in different sectors. And then you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs collaboration with the Internal Organization for Migration. They are focused on finding solutions to support artist development. So if these different entities are failing, then why do we have a union, so to speak, of all our performers that could in fact come up and launch their own non-profit to support the artists while they're growing, and as well as looking forward to retirement?
well, I
Because
think last week. Yeah, go ahead.
no.
But
Go on.
before you come in, Maxine, wasn't the Federation of Musicians the organization that was established to accomplish what Herb is talking about? Because when Bradshaw was there, what the jazz player,
Sonny Bradshaw.
Sonny Bradshaw, Jamaican Federation of Musicians was very active.
Yeah, but like I said, the industry for the music, where the money is made, like the Grace Kennedys or the Red Stripe of the music,
It's overseas.
is overseas. So even Jaria, the Jaria is the strongest association now for the music industry, and they developed Reggae Month
Yeah.
as an advocacy and a platform to bring more information, etc.
And that too was taken over by
And that
Bob's
feature
Great.
was taken over by the ministry,
Yeah.
because they don't have access to the funding that's necessary, and then you have to go to the culture ministry to receive the funds, and then because you don't have the local players that are given, because generally, like the Grammys or the American music industry, they the American labels give them money, and or the government pumps money into them. They don't sit on their board, or they don't have to bring you into their office for you to
Yeah.
have a space.
Not a controlling relationship.
Yes, not a and I see someone speaking about the artists are not overseas, but in the comment section. But if you ever figure out how many Jamaican artists are in fact overseas, you understand, who migrate into London or migrate into America, they may have homes in Jamaica, but they have homes abroad. You understand? Like they develop their own economy is not only in Jamaica. I mean, if you look at the Malis, for example, they have homes in Jamaica. They're rarely ever there. They're in their American international homes. That's where they live most of their lives. But if you go and look and say, yes, them have a home in Jacksonville, them have a home here, they have business place on Hope Road, they have business place downtown, by Tough Gang Studios. But if you do the fact check, they're never there. And most of those places are not they're not hugely profit making places, but you have to have it for your persona. You understand? For your international persona. But where is your money? Is your money in Jamaica? No. You understand? If you audit you know, if you audit the money, especially the high yielding artists, you find that the majority of their money is abroad as well.
But given all of
It's
that,
not,
Max,
it's
given
not
all of that,
subject to tax.
Huh?
It's not subject to taxes.
Potentially. But I'm just telling you their living. I'm telling you their quality of life. They have homes in Florida. You understand?
Mhm.
That's where they are domiciled. You know, they may have homes in Jamaica, yeah. But where they're substantive, you know?
So
You
maybe
know,
the Jamaica government got to figure out a way to tax them overseas.
yes. That's what I'm saying. Not just them, the artists. That's why I say you'd have to be
I mean,
taxed.
anybody who's making the majority of the money overseas.
Exactly,
They need to
including
be,
the companies.
yeah.
You understand? Because like I said, they're making 80% of the profit. So the artist that is getting 20%, you know, there are, because most companies, you know, like Universal, if they partner with somebody in China, the Chinese artists, they usually set up a company in every. That's why Universal have global companies everywhere. They're not in America exploiting the world. They have companies in every country in the world. You understand?
Yeah.
Like a subsidiary. Unfortunately for Jamaica, maybe based on our size, that we cannot accommodate that type of infrastructure. We don't have that. So it makes the extraction even worse because it the investment can't even come through. You understand? On the level that it goes in the rest of the world.
but let me ask you this: with all infrastructure changes and what have you, what will that mean for the fan? The man who's looking to go to the Vibes Cartel or Beres, man, does it mean a reduction in ticket costs to attend these shows for the consumer? Because that's where it come down to, you know. I saw Vibes Cartel came out and they announced Black Friday, and to me it said that people are not buying the ticket at the price it is. So they decided to reduce it.
I mean, maybe it's not the ticket that you know, maybe the crowd that he wants to, you know, it would be hard for him to have a concert and his people from Portmore don't get to come to the show.
Oh yeah, that too,
Yes, I'm saying. So
that too.
they have to create uh they can't give away the tickets either because then, you know, it would affect the other people paying the high prices. Like, why should I pay a high price when, you know, maybe I'll pretend I come from Gaza and go get a low price ticket. You
And
know?
then
But
that
but Mikey, I also believe, to try and answer your question from a different angle, I also believe that if the infrastructure that we've been talking about were there, like, and it was the cost of putting in these infrastructure was shared between a wider cross section of people, it could possibly cause artists to sell themselves at a more reasonable price when they have concerts. For example, if Herb raised the issue of a covered venue during those rainy seasons, if there was that kind of infrastructure with reasonable levels of security and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, it would be probably much easier for the artists to market themselves at a much more reasonable price instead of trying to contract a security company in an area that is prone to car thieves and breakage and all of that stuff. So I believe that that could possibly reduce the cost to the consumer.
Yeah. And as a responding to some of the comments, the artists living abroad, which is why I say a slave talking to another slave. Everybody that is migrating for a better life out of Jamaica, the whole pull of migration, is also there for the artists. You understand? So the nurse, the doctor, whoever is leaving Jamaica, you understand I'm saying, for a better circumstance, the artist is also one of those people. You understand? Or the business people. I could tell you that my uncle, VP Records, they left Jamaica not simply to say like they couldn't stay. It's not that they couldn't stay in Jamaica and trade and open up subsidiaries in markets that they that they want to grow in. They had to leave Jamaica because of the mass migrate, the issues that was in the late 70s with the tension between, the government and the PNP, JLP
Po-
tension. It was a
Politics and
no,
extortion,
it was a
everything.
massive flight of persons, of entrepreneurs who had to go. You understand? Based on whatever deterioration conditions. I remember my uncle, he couldn't get vinyl to run his, pressing plant. You understand? Like it was major. And then once you set up abroad and you find that you're making more profits there and you're under no tension, and you understand what I'm saying? Then just like every other level, you do migrate. So it is a complex situation that requires study. That's why I said for the local government now, or the local, like we're in Jamaica now and we're studying policy, we have to take all these things into consideration. And as a JAMPRO agency, as Herb is saying, I've been in Jamaica, lobbying for what I know and what the input should be. And I work for Universal Music Group that own the Mali catalog. And I'm aware of the companies that are in the Mali business. And I would say to JAMPRO that these companies, if lobbied to, if the case is presented, they themselves, out of their profits, you understand, would give back to
The light.
you understand?
Look, I'll show you. Listen.
They would give back. But the policy is not there, and the research
Alright,
is
yeah,
not
thank
being done,
Yeah.
and the linkages are not being made. You know what I mean? So then we start to talk about artists and the people who are in Jamaica, and we don't understand that the people who are in Jamaica, artists, producers, everyone, are at the
At the bottom of the barrel.
lowest end of the profit making of our Jamaica music product. And so our lobbying as a country should be to the people and the institutions that are making the profits. Not begging them, because it's just that they naturally invest back into where the thing is being extracted. You understand? But if they're extracting from the international Jamaican companies, they have no linkage to Jamaica. You understand? So you in Jamaica have to say, oh, this is what is happening, and create the linkages, create the appreciation and understanding, and the policy and the infrastructure for them to give back. Same thing is going to happen to us with ganja. Same exact thing. Our ganja identity and so is sold better abroad. We don't even have a adult use policy in Jamaica to really market our ganja, but California does, and California have all the reggae festivals. California have all the reggae groups. California, as Herb was saying, has the biggest Mali company in the world selling Jamaican branded ganja grown in California. Because Mali is a Jamaican, you know, they're not using the blue hills of San Francisco. They're using the blue mountains of Jamaica to market and produce and promote their product. So we need to just grow up and stop and call a spade a spade. This is how our country and certainly our creative industry is organized. And don't just talk about Jamaica. Like I said, if you're building a venue, build it so yes, Jamaicans are going to use it, but also build it that yes, international people can also come and use the venue. You know, do a joint venture with Clear Channel that owns and develops 90% of the venues in America. Yeah, Clear Channel should own 1 or 2 venues in Jamaica, you know, in partnership with their products. Sit down with those kind of people, you know.
I think that's going to require forward thinking. But what I want to do, I want to bring Patrick McCarthy into the discussion. Patrick, I hope you have listened so far to what we are talking about. We are looking at the state of events coming up in the holiday. You know, the Buju Bantan and Beres concert, the Vibes Cartel concert, Rebel Salute and Sting. We're exploring the difference and the likely impact of these events. So I would interested in hearing your take on the whole thing around Jamaican music and all of that. Patrick?
Yeah. I've been listening, and it's a complicated situation, because what happens is that you got to look at how the whole music industry has developed in Jamaica, right? And take into account, most of all, that the ones who actually make it is a small fraction of the ones who really try to get into the industry, right, and really develop themselves. I mean, when you go back to the history of it all, you're talking about artists who pretty much came from nothing, from extreme poverty in some cases, right, to really rise to where they are now. And the fact of the matter is that very little was done in terms of helping them. The support primarily came from, eventually the growing, fan base, for one. And then secondly, as they develop and gain international status, then that's becomes really what fills their breadbasket. And Maxine kind of spoke to that when she mentioned in terms of, if you look at where the artists are located, and she really talking about the ones who really reap success, they're not located in Jamaica. Jamaica has nothing to offer them, really. Right? The Jamaican market is, I would imagine, it's a small percentage of their entire market base. So it doesn't become automatic for them to give back in a Jamaican situation, right? Because they toil real hard to get to where they want to get to. That's one. The other thing is that government has not been really acted responsibly to assisting artists, right? And assisting artist development and really exposing new artists, right, to the industry, right? And offer, some kind of guidance and training and all of that stuff. So it's a whole lot of things to it. There was a time when even music was in schools. That's not there anymore. That hasn't been there for quite some time. So, you know, when you look at all of these things, it's easy to say that, you know, artists should give back and so on. But we're not a give back society. Plus, we can't thrive and develop based on philanthropy. Right? So that's kind of the state of affairs.
Les, you want to add to that?
Let me just add to what he just said and what I've been driving at. It doesn't matter whether we're not a give back society as such, but for the future, for the current, for the future long-term and short-term development of artists, there has to be a resurrection of that organization that Sonny Bradshaw used to run, because that means the artists have their own interests at heart and that they themselves are giving input. Now, if the government is smart, the government could even pass a law that says they can do matching funds. Because how long do these artists last? And what happens when they hit their 60s, 70s, and 80s? Are they living on the street? Are they living in a home for retired artists? Where they're going to be? So you have success with the Marleys, success with Shabba, success with Buju, all the ones that have this high level of success.
And sufferation for the one who sing Curly Locks, Junior Biles.
Right. So they have to be the ones to dip deep into their pockets and help to reestablish this organization, Maxine. Because I just don't see it's just like, you know, the guys in the car business in Detroit, right? All of a sudden they have no retirement that the company is going to pay them because they were busy collecting huge salaries in that motor city, and they weren't really interested in putting away money for like 401ks and stuff like that in the early days. They just wanted the money up front. So these artists need to learn how to put away some money and invest, whether it's 401k or whatever type investment that they can get into. They have to do it because they have to take care of themselves in case something befalls them, handicap or something like that. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I think it's like I know they just launched a life insurance entertainment fund, I think this week, for life insurance for the entertainment industry, which, you know, is one of those infrastructures that came up because, especially with the golden age of the artists on us, so many of them are passing, you know, that have contributed so much to the development of the foundation on which the newer artists actually literally stand, especially since our music is, we play over rhythms, we play over the early music, you know? So you're literally having a hit based on something that the Scatterlight Man did, you know, 40, 50 years ago. So, you know, things are inching forward in terms of, I saw that as a positive move, locally that this insurance space has been offered for health and end of life arrangements to be taken care of.
So even that health policy, does it have a savings or investment feature to it?
Like I said, I just saw it advertised. I know that they were, because of the embarrassment with the passage of these artists, and or like say Lieutenant Stitchie, got
Yeah.
a stroke, and the cost, and there's no insurance there, policy. I know at that level it was just initiated, but I would be thinking now that it is a platform for the Guardian Life or whoever is issuing this or overseeing this policy to now open the other platforms to the artists and entertainers that are going to engage, and then they will see now, oh, these other opportunities are there, that life insurance is not just that there are other aspects to save, as you're putting. So where is it, 62 years later from the beginning of our industry, we are at the edge of that. But I think we need to, just like as how you speak of, or this program, I was introduced to it a lot in the advocacy for the diaspora to be engaged in Jamaica more forthrightly, or how that engagement should occur. I think our music has to have that same level of investigation and policy development. I know the stock exchange in Jamaica is looking now at launching a company that, or encouraging the launch of a company or companies that will afford persons to buy in to the service of being involved in an industry. Like, people, you don't necessarily have to know the industry, but you can strengthen the industry, and you can move it forward by buying into entities that would promote, like development of venues, or that type of development. We really do need a vehicle for our diaspora to be attached more better to our Jamaican local situation, because like I said, with the Malis and with various artists, regardless of their living abroad and making money, they still have to keep their Jamaican identity. That's a big part of their mystique.
Most of it is that it is the identity that they're marketing
That they're
and
marketing,
making the money from.
making the money
As
from. So
Patrick raised the issue of saying that they were not the Jamaican aspect of their brand was not the generating the most part of their wealth or something like that. But the important thing is that the most important part of their brand is the Jamaican brand itself that they are selling and making money off. Whether or not the total money that they are getting is coming from Jamaica or in Jamaica is not the most important thing. It is that they are selling the brand Jamaica and making and Jamaican culture, and that's what they're making money from, whether they're abroad in England or US or wherever.
yep.
But here's a big piece though that we seem to be skirting around or neglecting, is that we're talking about operating in a capitalist system, which really don't is not set up for facilitate helping you develop, right? Or helping the artist develop. It is not, designed in that way. And in fact, right, it's even worse than just a lopsided design. It's also a predatory one.
Yeah.
The only way the real players, as you call it, Maxine, who make the money from the music, right? The only way they really become engaged is where they can make big money. And there's no big money to be made in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
But look at it this way, Patrick. It, like you say, it's about capitalism. But capitalism is about self-interest, and our argument, which is sound in getting these people to contribute more, is that it is in their self-interest to preserve that culture, right? That they are marketing to make their money, even though they're not making it in Jamaica, right? They have to preserve that culture, the Jamaican brand that they are making money from. It is part of their self-interest to keep that going. And that is where we would be saying, okay, in your self-interest, you need to invest in certain kind of infrastructure in Jamaica to facilitate your growth and your marketing abroad.
But that's the problem,
in order to survive.
But that's the problem, because what it takes to invest, right, is what they don't have to invest. Right? They're more concerned about the bread and butter issue, because that is what they're confronted with every step of the way. I mean, when you think about it, when an artist put out a music that really, brings some money in, that may be one music out of many attempts. Right? It's not like him get up and decide that, okay, I'm going to work on this and it's going to become a success. He has a number of projects, right, working on before him finally make a hit. Right? When it become more international and all of that, then he may be able to make 2 and 3 hits at a time. But that's always been the problem. Even internationally. That's one of the reasons why we see some artists, international artists, who they have one hit and you don't hear about them again in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not an easy industry to play in.
Well, I agree with you. It's not an easy industry to play in, but if Shelley and Fraser can be giving back to Waterhouse, then I see no reason the other personalities, popular personalities, reggae artists from Waterhouse can't give something back to the community, rather than opposing. You understand? They're coming to the community, them see it. So I hear what Patrick is saying, I hear what everybody's saying, but I'm still saying, if it's even their conscience, because they come into they must can give back something to the community. You understand me? We've been trying for some time now to get a studio going at Bagger Park. And it's like, it's tough, man.
And what you're saying, Mikey, is multiplied over and over in all the communities across Jamaica, especially in Kingston.
Yes.
Because when you look at all these communities where you hear these big name artists come from, you look from Trench Town, Greenwich Town, Whitfield Town, with some of the most established studios over the years, some of the most established artists. And when you look, and these people it's not like these people absent from these communities. They come there every day. They have corners where they clown on whenever they come in.
We need to start
And-
shun. We need to start shun them.
And yet still, when you
community, we just
when
turn
you
it
go
back
into those communities and ask what these guys have done,
nothing.
we were kind of fortunate back in the 70s and 80s inside our Greenwich town, in that when we were having like social events, right? We for the most part could count on some of those artists to contribute
Yeah.
their services. You had like High Times and those guys who, would help get other guys to come and contribute to the function and raise funds. But for the most part, the contribution is lacking.
Lacking, bro. Seriously lacking.
But here's the other point though to what you raised, Micah. Right? If you look at all these studios, right, look at each of them, right? They have had to become real dynamic businessmen to really thrive, and make any progress. They either have to supplement the music production with record store, right? Or supplement it with like in the case of Jammies, with a sound system, right? But it's not just the music production by itself.
But Patrick, I understand what you're saying, but a lot of these people can contribute. That's the point.
No. I'm not knocking the idea.
We're not saying
contribution. I'm saying that cannot be the way to rely on the development. That cannot be the number one way we look at developing the artists, right? Because when you look at
not the artist, community infrastructure.
No, but
Developing
in order for the
community
community infrastructure develop, right? You're really talking about give back from the ones who have really benefited, right, in their music development.
So you need a matching funds program either by private sector or government. And that's
something.
an incentive.
Something.
Yeah. Incentivize them to give back.
Maxine, what do you think? You're still active in the industry. What do you think?
Yes, I mean I advocate for a trust, which is the same fund platform that the artists and the international industry and even companies like Digicel and a lot of companies that are using the music and the culture to promote their goods and services to give back to a specific fund that is, targeting the development of the industry itself, knowing the shortcomings within Jamaica.
A simple tax on cigarette could go far away, you don't think?
They tax it already for different
towards the trust.
Like for example, the Chase Fund I know is like the what do you call it? The lotto money.
Yeah.
Goes towards Chase, and so something similar going towards the music, based on the characteristics or the companies that the music is used for. Tourism, I know tourism enhancement fund and all of those things, like you can go to it, but it's not focused, like you still need a trust with a deed, and that deed is to do XYZ on behalf of the industry, or on behalf of the practitioners, not the system. But the communities, like giving back to schools or music in schools. I mean, studios now, as what Mike is talking about, It's not simple for making music now.
No.
Because we need studios for content, to do podcasts. All of these people in the community might have entrepreneurial ideas, but they need a platform to, project their ideas so they can rent a studio, to do them podcasts or bring forward the idea that is actually income generating. You know what I mean? So the whole idea of, like I say, a trust with those type of community development projects attached to it would be a good look. And it would attract not just artists, it would attract actually the fans of the artists. Because sometimes it's the fans of the artists of Waterhouse who would actually give back to Waterhouse. Like they have a greater connection to the community than even the artists themselves. So the artists at that point would only be advertisers, or connectors to this larger community who, through the music and through the struggle of the artists coming up on the sound and, wherever them go through, they do have an affinity. They want to visit. They want to know about the place, So it wouldn't just, as you say, stop at the artists, but really get to the fans also of the artists.
Folks, it's now 5 o'clock and we're going to call it. I want to thank all of you for a very positive and informative discussion. I hope the listeners like what they heard. If they do, I'm asking you to like, subscribe, and tell a friend about this channel, Waterhouse Vibes. We meet here every Sunday. Now it's daylight saving time, so we start at 3 p.m. But usually we are 4 p.m. to 6 o'clock podcast. So until next week, I want to say stay strong.
Blessings.
Stay strong and pass on the word to your friends. Tell them about Waterhouse Vibes. One of the few places you can get that honest and clear discussion among Jamaicans without the cursing and finger pointing. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, Sister Maxine, for your contribution. Last, Patrick.
Big up.
Thank you all for your contribution. And next Sunday, we're going to do it all over again.
Right.
Bye.
All right, Mike.
Bye, my brother.
Everybody.
Yeah, man. Cool.